So hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for today's class. Today we are going to look into formal meetings between the FDA and sponsors or applicants of a prescription drug. And of course we are going to look into this guidance document for the industry, which is already posted on FDA website. Okay, so first of all, why we are having our class today? The emphasis is mainly on the IND, I would say pre-IND meeting. Still, I'm going to go over all of the formal meetings that we may have with FDA, because it's not just pre-IND or before starting to apply for the authorization from FDA to conduct a clinical trial on the US soil. But we also have other types of meetings like pre-NDA or pre-new drug application meeting. We may have meetings in order to go over different types of issues that we may encounter. We may have meetings that are online, meetings that are only for, I would say, of course we don't record them, but we are going to again discuss about any question that we may have. And for those meetings we will need to always prepare a package. So this is why I came, of course, I opened this document, because this is the guidance document that is really for us is a holy book, I would say. This is the manual that FDA gives us, and this is as of 2023. Of course, these guidance documents may change. This is why I always ask my students and professionals, of course, to always go back to the FDA website and then to look into a document that has been released, because you have other dates for this document as well for the previous years, but each time we have some updates, some changes, maybe in the deadlines, maybe regarding the content of the application as well. And again, it's always good to go back to FDA website, even for the forms as well, because those forms may also change. They don't change every year, but they may change. So I always recommend everyone to go to FDA website and search for the latest document. Okay, so let's go over this formal training, I would say, guidance document. Always read these documents. I know that some of them, they are long. This one is only 24 pages and usually starts with an introduction, with the background, and then it will give you the content of the information, and of course at the very end you're going to have references and maybe some appendices. So it's not really taking too much time, but it's really focused. It goes right to the point, especially when we would like to have again meetings with FDA. So here we are going to look into different types, type A meeting, type B meeting, which is for the IND applications, type C, type D, and type E meetings as well. And then we're going to talk about, okay, how are those meetings are going to take place, because we may have I would say face-to-face meetings, which is not always easy, because we have to set up a time in advance, usually 2 weeks before the meeting starts. So we apply about 2 weeks before, the time that we want the meeting to take place, and then we will need to, of course, find people, arranging for the trip, if of course it's applicable, and then we have to talk face-to-face with FDA reviewers and officers. The best way, I would say, not just because of, again, the COVID or what happened in 2019, but overall, now we prefer to have meetings online. It's much easier. It's also less time consuming. It also prevents us from going from one meeting to another meeting or city to another city. So I recommend again that we always look into applying for meetings online. And then we are going to look into, okay, what is the meeting formats and what are the meeting requests. And then we will also talk about the meeting package, the timing of meeting package submission, where and how many copies of meeting packages are to be sent. Of course, now we send those, I would say, in an electronic format, so there's only one copy. And what we do is that in the package, we are going obviously to have a cover letter, which is a template that I'm of course going to show you, we also need to write in the cover letter, or I would say in the package, a little bit more information about the study, because if we are looking into a pre-IND meeting, for example, we are looking into proposing a study. We are going to show the study to FDA officers. We're also going to show, and of course we attach a document that we call CMC, or Chemistry, Manufacturing and Control. And then we are going to also add the CMC into the pre-IND, I would say, meeting request. Obviously, if you are looking into a pre-NDA or pre-new drug application, the format of the meeting, I would say type A, B, C, D, is going to change, but the content is also going to be changed. We're going to put much more information, because when we're applying for an IND, and of course, since we talk about a pre-IND meeting request, the amount of the information is going to be much less than when we are looking into a pre-NDA or pre-new drug application meeting request. Then we are going to talk about the content, of course, and I'm going to show you not only a cover letter, but also the content of an existing, of course, one which is archived as well, which is a public information as well on the FDA website, about just a presentation of a pre-IND meeting request. So this PowerPoint is also part of the package. So in the package, you do have a cover letter, you have the CMC, Chemistry, Manufacturing and Control document, and you also have a PowerPoint. And obviously in the cover letter, you're going to also to propose 3 times, and FDA is going to respond you back. Of course, in the past, we have been also talking with FDA on the phone, and we are also asking them for the time. Still, we had to send the package. Nowadays, of course, we send those meeting requests by email, and FDA is going to respond us again as soon as they can. After this, of course, we are going to also to look into cancellation or rescheduling of a meeting, the meeting conduct, and the meeting minutes, because don't forget that when you're having this type of meetings, any type of meeting with FDA, you will need to write the meeting minutes. This means whatever you have been talking about, you also add the content of the information that you sent to FDA, and you're going to make all of these meeting minutes and the content in a PDF format, and you're also going to add it into the CTD backbone. So for example, in the new drug submission, or even in an IND submission, since we already had your pre-IND meeting, you will have a pre-IND meeting minutes. So you're going to add the pre-IND meeting minutes, that may be one, it may be several, into one of the sub-modules in module 1 of the IND application in the CTD backbone, so in module 1. So let's go over again what this guidance document is covering. Of course, at the beginning, like any other guidance documents, we have an introduction. We always go over why we are having these guidance documents. Of course, the responsibilities of different FDA offices, responsibilities of the industry. And once you are going to read this, we are going to look into, of course, the background of the again, the document as well. So once we are done with this, we continue now with the, I would say, the information that we are looking at. So when you see here the meeting types, we are talking about several types of meetings. So for example, type A meeting, this is for those that are necessary for an otherwise stalled product development program to proceed or to address an important safety issue. So reason for a type A meeting is the following. Again, it can include the following. For example, dispute resolution meetings, and again, of course, the review of the staff, for example, and then if the sponsor, for example, who has the right to appeal, is going to appeal. It can also be a meeting for the clinical holds. Why? That's because when we are having a study and FDA sees that the study is putting into jeopardy the well-being of the study participants, or if there are too many deviations from the protocol, meaning that after the inspection of the site, of the clinical trial site, FDA make the observations that again the site is not following exactly the protocol, FDA may put a hold on a study. And if there is a hold, we will then be able to read the FDA comments. We are going to make the changes in the clinical trial procedures if necessary, if applicable, and then we are again going to apply for a type A meeting, which as per this guidance document is to discuss clinical holds. Then we have type B meetings. In type B meetings, we can talk about pre-investigational new drug applications. We call those meetings pre-IND meetings. We can have pre-emergency use authorization meetings. This is when we have a drug which is again necessary and it's an emergency use. It's like the COVID vaccine, for example. This is where we are also going to have a type B meeting with FDA officers. It can be a pre-new drug application or pre-biologic license application, or pre-NDA or / pre-BLA meetings. It can be post-action meetings requested 3 or more months, 3 or 4 months after receipt of an FDA regulatory action other than an approval. For example, FDA can issue a complete response letter or a refuse to file. So here again, we are going to apply for a type B meeting. Don't forget that for each of those types of meetings, we will have to prepare a package. So for a pre-NDA, for a pre-BLA, for a pre-IND meeting, for example, for any safety issues, we will need to prepare packages. We have to contact FDA, giving them 3 times, and preferably for us, the industry, I would say, for FDA as well, it's easier to manage, of course, the time for preventing, of course, for having trips or having some type of lags by having online meetings. You can also see some other types of meetings, such as type D EOP meetings, okay, like certain end of the phase. EOP stands for end of phase. Okay, so now end of phase 1 meeting. So in phase 1, as you know very well, we are looking into the pharmacology of the drug, and we are going to look into the pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, and if applicable, pharmacogenomics, in order to find the safe dose range of a drug that we can use in phase 2. So in phase 1, when we finish phase 1, we can always ask again FDA to have a meeting with us. Here we talk about end of phase 1 meetings. We can also finish phase 2. Phase 2 is when we are going to look into the effect of the drug in a population with a specific disease. And obviously we are not going to have 3,000 I would say subject or human subjects in the phase 2 studies. Usually it's around 100, 200 subjects, and we would like to just have it as a proof of concept to show to FDA, and of course ourselves too, for a company, to check whether or not the safe dose range that we got from phase 1 is effective, okay, or it has the efficacy and the safety that we are looking at for the drug at the end of phase 2. So you can always prepare a package for type B or end of phase meetings. It can take place after phase 1 or after phase 2. Obviously after phase 3 we are preparing to prepare the new drug application. This is why we are going to plan, we can plan to apply for a pre-new drug application or pre-biological license application, pre-BLA meetings as well. Now we also have type C meetings. This is any meeting other than a type A, type B, or type B end of phase, or type D, or interact a meeting regarding the development and review of a product, including meetings to facilitate early consultations on the use of a biomarker as a new surrogate endpoint that has never been previously used as the primary basis for product approval in the proposed context of use. We also have type D meetings. So a type D meeting is focused on a narrow set of issues that are used to discuss issues at key decision points to provide timely feedback critical to move the program forward. Now, in addition to, those meetings, we also have interact meetings. Those interact meetings are intended for novel or new products and development programs that present unique challenges in early development. For example, before filing of an IND or before having a pre-IND meeting. So you understand that even before the pre-IND meeting, you can have an interact meeting in order to start the discussions and, of course, start asking our questions from FDA officers before even we are looking into investigational new drug applications. Now, the questions that we may ask are the following. We will be able to ask, for example, and of course consult with FDA officers and reviewers about the choice of appropriate clinical models or necessary toxicology studies for novel drug platforms or drug candidates. We can, for example, look into the chemistry, manufacturing, and controls issues or testing strategies aimed to demonstrate product safety adequate to support first-in-human studies. So now, what are the meeting formats? The first one is in-person, face-to-face. So you can always apply for having this type of meetings face-to-face as well. Another format of meeting is virtual face-to-face through a video conference. So we see each other and we are going to have a meeting online with FDA officers. So attendees participate remotely via virtual meeting platforms such as Zoom, and of course with core attendees that are in the camera. You can also have teleconferences, so attendees participate via an audio-only connection, so phone or virtual meetings, but without cameras on. You can also have WRO or written response only. So these are sent to requesters in lieu of meeting conducted in one of the other formats described above. Now, talking about the meeting request, okay, to make the most efficient use of FDA resource, requesters should use the extensive sources of product development information that are publicly available before seeking a meeting. This is why we are now looking into the guidance documents. And then, of course, to promote efficient meeting management, requesters should try to anticipate future needs and, to the extent practical, address relevant and related product development issues in the fewest possible meetings while avoiding meetings with too many questions. Now, talking about the meeting request and what we should add in, if we already have an application number, for example here, if we have an IND number, because we already had an IND and we are going to refer to that IND number, we are going to add the application number in the meeting package. This is in the cover letter. If not, we leave it blank. We also, in the cover letter, write down the product name, the chemical name, the established name, and or the structure, and the proposed regulatory pathway, for example, if it's 505B or 505B2, etc. And then the proposed indication or context of product development. Then we are going to write down that we are applying for having a meeting, and we have to write down the meeting type. So for example, if this is for an IND or pre-IND meeting, this is going to be type B meeting. If this is for a meeting before a pre-IND meeting, as we already again covered that, we will need to apply for an interact meeting. Then if we have a pediatric study, we are going to add the plans for the pediatric study. If applicable, we are going to write down about the human factors engineering plan. We can also talk about the combination product information if, of course, applicable. And we are going to give suggested dates and times, morning or afternoon, when, of course, the meeting is going to take place. Of course, we propose those times and FDA is going to respond to us. So dates and times when the requester is not available should also be included. All in your cover letter, of course. And again, we are talking about the meeting package from IND here as well. Okay, then we are asked to have a list of proposed questions grouped by FDA discipline, and the meeting request must include the following information. So again, I repeat, the proposed meeting format, the date of the meeting, a brief statement of the purpose of the meeting, a proposed agenda, including estimated time needed for discussions of each agenda item. You can also add this in at the beginning of the PowerPoint presentation that we usually prepare in order to go over that in front of FDA officers and reviewers. Then you will need to add a list of planned attendees from the requester's organization, including their names and title. So the list should also include the names, titles, and affiliations of consultants and interpreters if applicable. And we can also add a list of requested FDA attendees if we know, of course, who are those attendees, and requests for attendance by FDA staff who are not otherwise essential to the application's review, of course, may affect the ability to hold the meeting within the specified time frame of the meeting type being requested. If you don't know about FDA, again, officers that you would like to have in the meeting, you can just talk about all of the attendees that are coming from your company. Then talking about assigning and responding to meeting requests. For any type of meeting, the sponsor may request a write only I would say meetings to its questions rather than another meeting format. So we can just send our questions. They are only, again, written format, and FDA is going to send the answers to us. For pre-IND, Type C, Type D, and Interact meetings, although the sponsor may request an in-person, virtual, or teleconference meeting, the agency may determine that a written response to the sponsor's questions would be the most appropriate means for providing feedback and advices to the sponsor, meaning that you may still apply for an online meeting, but FDA may look into your list of your questions and they may judge that there is no need for having an online meeting. This is why they are going to respond you back by writing their answers. Now, again, requests for Type B and Type B EOP or end of phase meetings will be honored if the sponsor is at the appropriate stage of development to make such a meeting productive. So we understand that we cannot just ask for any meeting at any time. When you are ready as the sponsor, as the industrial side, you will then need to prepare the meeting package and then to send it to FDA. Of course, by email to the, again, CBER email, and they are going to respond you back telling you that the meeting is, for example, set for which date that you already proposed. And usually we apply for those meetings 2 weeks before we would like to meet with FDA officers. So we prepare and send our meeting package. It can be pre-IND, pre-NDA, I would say BLA, or any other type of meetings 2 weeks before we would like to meet with FDA. Okay. Now again, as I told you, the meeting may be denied or the meeting may be granted by FDA. So FDA is going to send you an email confirming that, again, the meeting as per your request for one of your times has been granted. And then, of course, on that time, you are going to have all of your attendees from your company. You're going to log in, and then you're going to start presenting your information about your clinical trial, if this is a pre-IND meeting, or about your new drug application, or your biological license application, if this is for pre-NDA or pre-BLA meetings. Okay, so here in the guidance document, we can see the tables. So table 1, this is about the FDA meeting request and WRO request response timeline. So for each of those meeting times, they are, again, FDA is going to respond. If this is for a meeting type A, 14 days. If this is for a meeting type B, they will take 3 weeks, 21 days, and it doesn't go beyond 21 days. But usually this is 2 weeks before that we can always send our request to meet with FDA. Now again, we can also see in table 2 the FDA meeting scheduling time frames. So for type A or type B, again, these are in calendar days, maybe 30 days, 60 days, 70 days, for example, if this is type B, end of the phase, and it goes up to, again, 75 days, calendar days, so including weekends, if this is an interact meeting. Now, let's talk about the meeting package. Pre-meeting preparation is critical for achieving a productive discussion or exchange of information. Obviously, we are going to look into what we need to add into a meeting package based on this guidance document. So here again, we are encouraging, FDA is encouraging, of course, requesters to include their meeting package for all meeting types. So if possible, but must meet the required due dates for certain meetings. Okay, perfect. So now, time of meeting package submission, because when you are applying for a meeting, of course it will take some time before FDA is going to respond back to you to confirm your meeting time, but you also have a deadline in order to submit your meeting content or the package. So here in this table 4, we look into the request meeting package timelines. So for types A, C, and D interact is at the time of the meeting request. You will have also to have all of your information ready and readily available, and you submit both your request for a meeting in addition to all of the information and your PowerPoint and any other relevant document. For the type B, and here again I'm giving an example of pre-IND meeting, it should not be later than 30 days before the scheduled date of the meeting or WRO, or written only response time. For B, type B meetings, end of the phase, not later than 50 days. And for type C meetings, not later than 47 days. They are all calendar days. So as you see, we will need to be ready in advance and then to apply for those I would say meetings with FDA. Now, where and how many copies of meeting packages are to be sent? So requesters should submit the archival meeting package to the relevant application. For example, if this is for pre-IND, if this is for an IND package, an NDA, a BLA, or a PTS, via the electronic gateway, or in CDER via the CDER NextGen portal. So you go to the portal, you log in, and then you are going to submit your application. So for additional ways to submit to CBER, you can always look into the again the web page, which is about Center Biologics Evaluation and Research Cyber Regulatory Submission, electronic and paper. And if necessary, non-commercial IND holders may also submit their package via the appropriate center's document room. Now, what is in the meeting package? The meeting package should provide summary information of relevant information, of course, to the product, of any supplementary information needed to develop responses to issues raised by requester or review division. And usually again in the meeting package it should include the same first 9 items that we already talked, provided for the meeting request, and in addition they should include a list of all individuals with their titles and affiliations in the meeting, a background section that includes the following: a brief history of the development program and relevant communications with the FDA before the meeting. Then you have to add substantive changes in product development plans if applicable, the current status of the product development, then a brief statement summarizing the purpose of the meeting, a list of the final questions for discussion grouped by FDA discipline and with a brief summary for each question to explain the need or context for the question. You will need also to add data to support the discussions organized by FDA. And of course, again, giving you an example of pre-IND meeting, we are going to add all of the information in a PowerPoint presentation, and we are going to, of course, prepare those presentations and send those again to FDA as well. Don't forget again that for type B meetings, for example, again, you need 30 days. You need 30 days. So in advance of the meeting to submit your final information of the package. And of course, you're going to have preliminary responses. You may also reschedule or cancel the meeting. FDA can also reschedule or cancel the meeting as well. They will let you know, of course, but again, this is a two-way communication that you're going to have with FDA officers. And of course, when you are going to have the meeting conduct, we have to be on time. We are now going to, again, parties are going to present themselves, and then you as a company, you're going to talk about why you are applying for example, again, a pre-IND meeting or an IND meeting or an NDA or pre-NDA meeting, I would say. And then you're going, of course, to conduct the meeting. So at pre-NDA, for example, and pre-BLA meetings for application reviewed under the prescription drug user fee amendment program for enhanced review, for example, you will need, of course, to add, again, as I told you already, more information. So the content of the package of a pre-IND meeting is obviously different from the content of the package meeting request package for a pre-NDA or pre-BLA application. Then regarding the meeting minutes, because the FDA's minutes are the official records of meetings, the FDA documentation of meeting outcomes, agreements, disagreements, and action items is critical to ensuring that this information is preserved for meeting attendees and future references. So the FDA will issue the official finalized minutes to the requester within 30 calendar days after the meeting. Don't forget that you will need to include all of this, the documentation and formal communication with FDA, when you are going to again complete your IND application in CTD format, or your again BLA application, or a new drug application or NDA application in CTD format. You have a placeholder in module 1 where we are going to add all of the previous communications with FDA. The same applies to Canada, to EMA, to any other country where they are using the CTD or Common Technical Document backbone, where in module 1, which is again, it will depend on the type of application, as opposed to module 2 through module 5, where this is universal and we don't change them, we will need to add this information in module 1. Perfect. And of course, at the end of a document, you're just going to look into the references. So we just covered the again FDA guidance for the preparation of meetings with again FDA. Perfect. Now let's look into the content of I would say, a meeting request. So here we're going to start again talking about the meetings. Of course, the cover letter is as I am showing you here. Of course, on the top you have the address, then the date, and then RE is reference is a request for a type A, B, or C, or D, or E, or interact, for example. And if you have again a pre-IND number, you also add it here as well. And then you're going to just write down, I would say, continue to complete this template of a cover letter that FDA gives us. So we need to follow this template when we are writing our cover letter. So first of all, we're going to write down that enclosed, please find a request for a type A, B, C, D, E, or interact meeting. And then we are going to say for an IND meeting here, we plan to investigate a product name with the chemical structure outlined below. And then we give the chemical structure. And then we are going to ask them to we request for having a meeting. Then we are also going to add the proposed agenda, the list of proposed questions, for example, clinical, CMC, or chemistry, manufacturing and control, pharmacology, and toxicology questions. Now, for each question, there should be a brief explanation of the context and purpose of the question. Then we will need to add, if applicable, a list of all individuals with their titles and affiliations who will attend the requested meeting from the sponsors or applicant organization and consultants. Here we have to add those names, but if applicable, if we know, we also add a list of FDA staff or disciplines asked to participate in the requested meeting. And of course, we continue with the cover letter by saying that please contact me at which email, which phone, with any question. Thank you for your consideration. And then you're going to sign, and this is going to be the cover letter for the meeting request from FDA. And of course, we add this into the package that we're preparing, and of course we're going to submit on the FDA gateway when we are going to apply for a for a meeting. Now it can be pre-IND meeting, it can be a I would say an meeting type 2, end of the phase. It can be a pre-NDA meeting or a pre-BLA meeting, for example. Another document that we also need, another document that we need also to prepare and to also attach is called the chemistry, manufacturing and control. The chemistry and manufacturing and control document is about a drug, your drug. Here we are looking into a draft CMC, which is a sample given to us by FDA, and we are just looking into different sections and what is the content of the chemistry, manufacturing and control, using exactly the same template if we would like to create other CMC documents for other products. So as you see, FDA is already gave us this format and the template, and we will need to use this template for again adding them into or into the CTD backbone, or if this is for any request for a meeting with FDA. So here we have a table of content. We are also going to add now again we look into the of course the instructions for the CMC, and then we are going now to start looking into the content of a CMC. Okay, so the first section is about the drug product components and quantitative composition. That's because your substance, your drug may be a combination of two active pharmaceutical ingredients. But here we are talking about, of course, the drug substance, and we are also going to write and add, of course, information about the excipients. So any inactive ingredient that are going to be used in this drug. Now again, if this is for a new drug application or for a new biological application, the CMC may again be a little bit more, I would say, having more content as well, because we continue to work on the chemistry of the drug, and we may have additional information from the time that we start the first studies. So when we are going to submit this type of document in our pre-IND package, and of course from that time we may now have maybe more developed chemistry, manufacturing and control when we are going to apply for an NDA, so using this CMC document for any pre-NDA or pre-BLA application. And don't forget again that we use a CMC, again we add it into module 3 of our new drug application, and of course in the IND application as well. Then we are going to have another section about the controls for components, and this is where we are going to add the specifications based on a reference drug. Our drug, if this is the first time that is coming to the market, will become the reference drug. And then if we are having generic, for example, drugs, these are copies, exact copies of your existing drug. In this case, all of the generic companies, they will need to test their copies of your drug against the chemistry of your drug that is now the, I would say, the reference drug as well. So once you write down, of course, information about the again the specifications, and when you identify the test performed to release each lot for product to use, you're also going to add, of course, the certificate of analysis, because when we are making a product we will need to test it. We may also have a drug that is being made through intermediate molecules. In this case we will need to test each and every intermediate molecule until we will reach the final product as well. So all of that information is going to be added into the certificate of analysis, as well as any physico-chemical properties of our final product that we also add and test, and add the confirmation into our COA or certificate of analysis. Then we are also going to add information about the inactive ingredients. So we add them. Don't forget that the inactive ingredients are proprietary information. They are confidential as well, because in any drug it's not just the active pharmaceutical ingredient that is important, it's also the excipients, the way that we are making the formulation, and we make the drug stable, and for how long it's going to be stable as well. Then we have another section about the reagents, solvents, gases, purification columns, and other auxiliary materials in order to prepare the product or in order to test the product as well. So we are also going to add the names, and if there is any supplier for those reagents or solvents or other products, and we are going to write down the name and address of the supplier. And don't forget that we are also going to attach the COAs, certificate of analysis, or any type of information allowing FDA to look into the purity and the quality of your again reagents or solvents that you're using in your product or in order to make your product. And of course you can always add more lines into those tables as well. Then we are going to again give the information in the CMC about the production of drug substance. So the batch formula is going to be there. We are also going to attach the batch formula. The batch formula is a document showing each and every step in the production of a product, of a chemical. And if you have several steps, at the end of each step you are going to write down, of course, or give all of the information that we need in the attachment related to the production and testing of each of those intermediate steps. And of course we continue step by step or intermediate step by intermediate step until we will find the final product that we have. So this is why we talk about the batch formula. So here, as you see, in a batch formula, we put the name of the component. We may have several. We are going to add also the component function, and then we are going to add the amount used for, again, in the final product per dose. Now, if again, if applicable, we talk about the production of radionuclides. Okay, so again, if we are using any particle accelerator like cyclotron, etc., we are going also to add information about the operating parameters, about specifications for target body, volume of the target body used in production operations, etc. And then we are also going to add information, again, if applicable, of course, to the synthesis and purification of the drug substance. Now, if you're dealing with a vaccine, if it's a biological application, if this is about the product of the chemistry, of course, we are going, of course, to add information related to the synthesis and purification. And don't forget that when we are doing the synthesis and purification, still, if during the synthesis we do have several intermediate products, we will need to test each and every intermediate product as well. And then when we are going to find the final product in a chemistry, I would say, lab, or even in a biochemistry lab as well, we know that we may not always end up having the pure product. We may have our product among other products. So we will need to go over the purification of our product and the isolation of the product from, again, the final products that we have in our lab, or of course, if we do an upscaling, if we are having, again, the purification of the product at the end of the production cycle. And don't forget again that for any of these different products, we need to have a final product, we need to have a certificate of analysis as well. Okay, now we have sections in order to describe the synthesis and purification operations. We will need to again give information in the annex or the attachments about the in-process controls, so how we are controlling the process, what tests we are using in order to make sure that yes, we are reaching the intermediate product that as per the specifications of the product, they are part of the intermediate products. So for each and every intermediate product, we have to prepare, test, and then to test them against a type of reference, and then to show that the product, the final product that we are talking about, with the nomenclature and of course the I would say the formula, the chemical formula that we gave in our cover letter, is exactly the same. You may also have post-synthesis procedures, because as you know very well, in any, if this is chemistry or even if this is the biological products, we may not have the final product as is in a stable condition. So we will need to sometimes do a post-synthesis procedures in order to make our product, now vaccines or again any chemical, stable as well. So this is where we are going to provide in an attachment any applicable post-synthesis procedures. Then we have another section in CMC about the production of the drug product. So we are going to attach again the production operation, and we are going to continue with reprocessing of PET drug products if applicable. Then we have another section for packaging and labeling. This is because when your product is stable, we also need to have a package which is allowing the product to stay for some period of time active. So it's also important to do the packaging, to do the testing as well. And obviously we also add in the attachment not only information about the packaging and tests that we also perform for making sure that the product is stable in the package, but also about the label that we are going to add. Now, if this is for a pre-IND meeting, so for a pre-investigational new drug, we will also need to add the label. If you are now dealing with pre-NDA or pre-BLA meetings, obviously we will have to add again in this section and in the attachment, of course, information about the packaging and labeling of the final product. Another important, very important topic is about the container and the closure, because we open the container, we close it. Now it may be just for keeping the product stable. As soon as we open it, it's now exposed to the humidity, to the heat as well, or some other, I would say, conditions. In addition to sometimes this is for a pediatric population, we will need also to write here if we did put any measure in place in order to protect the pediatric population, for example, from accidentally using this product which is not meant or made for the pediatric population. So we are going, of course, to add here the again information about the supplier if this is another supplier, and then we also write here the drug master file, because each drug has a master file. We call that DMF, and don't forget that we have 4 types of DMF, 1, 2, 3, and 4, where in each of those I would say types of DMF that we write, there is a specific amount of information that we add. Now a letter of authorization, for example, from the DMF holder authorizing FDA to refer to the DMF in connection with the NDA or ANDA, which is the abbreviated new drug application for generic companies, is provided, should be provided in the attachment, and we are going to write down from which page or which attachment or which page and which page. Then we are going, of course, to talk about the controls for the finished dosage form, because when we are completing or having the dose, we still need to do the sampling procedure and then to do the testing for each batch, meaning that even if you are making, I don't know, 100 batches of your product, you will need, of course, to always put in place a control system, so that by sampling we are going to take the samples from different boxes or from different, I would say, of course, no, from different batches as well, and we are going to test them against the reference again that we are using in order to show to FDA that the drug that we are producing is again the same in all of the pills or all of the batches that we are having. And then we are going to, of course, to again write down about the regulatory specifications, and then we are going to talk about different tests that we did. So tests may be for appearance, radionuclidic identity, it may be radiochemical identity. Now we also need to talk about the acceptance criteria, the test procedure, and SOPs or standard operating procedures that we used, not one, maybe several, and the testing schedule. Now, for example, for the appearance, this is each sub-batch of a batch is tested. For example, radiochemical purity, okay, the quality control sub-batches, testing for first sub-batch, for first sub-portion completed prior to preparation of clinical sub-batches. So as you see, this is really a full control of all of the ingredients, all of the intermediate products, the final product. We need to have procedures in place, because for any repetitive action, a repetitive procedure, we need to have an SOP or several SOPs. And again, this is where we are going to, in this table, we are going to write down that for any of these tests or any assays that, for example, that we are doing, this is again where, in which attachment, which page, and which SOP. And of course we add those in the attachment of the document or the CMC as well. This is why what I'm showing you here is maybe a 40-45 pages of CMC, but the attachments are going to make a CMC document maybe up to 500 pages. Okay, I'm just giving you an approximation, but this is because of the attachments. So we give a summary here in the first pages, the first 40-50 pages in the CMC, and then we are going to add more information, more attachments. Of course, I'm going to say attachments for each and every test, each and every procedure, and we add them into the CMC. Now, again, I'm going to go over different tests: osmolarity, sterility, bacterial endotoxin, chemical purity. These are all different tests that we have to perform. Then we need to describe the analytical test procedures as well. This is where, again, we are going to add the information into this section, and then to add more information into the attachments as well. So this is where we need to again talk about the test procedures, as you see on the left. Then we have to have a test procedure number, the attachment that we added, and the page number in the attachment, in order to talk about all of these tests that have been done. So you see there are so many of these tests: chemical purities, identify specific tests, osmolarity, etc. We may also need to do microbiological validations. In this case, we are going to talk about the production site with attachments for the documents. We need to add again documents about the processing of equipments and components of the processing equipments. Then we will need to go over the facility environment controls, the aseptic area, aseptic techniques, and again we need to have those documented and added in the annex or attachments of the CMC. Then, if applicable, we may add information about the filtration process qualification and finished product microbiological testing. So here, for example, you can see again, you can use the following as a table of contents for the information that we include in section 10 related to the microbiological validation. So here we can have again the test criterion, like product summary, container and closure system, sterile equipments, environmental controls, aseptic area environment monitoring, etc. We also have to add attach the documents related to each of these tests when applicable, and then to write down, of course, which page numbers are related to these tests in the document that we did attach to the CMC. Then we are going to talk about, or give information and talk about, the stability and batch data, about the expiration dating period, about the stability data or the batch data. As you see, we have temperatures, if applicable humidity, if applicable any other interactions with other agents or other, I would say, external agents or factors as well. And then, as you see, for each stability batch, we have to again add, for example, saying that the batch was stored in the same container closure and it was produced, if this is yes, and the vial was stored in an inverted position, yes or no. Anyways, we are going to add much more information about the stability data. And then we also need to talk about our industrial post-approval comments. This is where we commit that annually post-approval a minimum of 1 batch of the drug will be tested according to the protocol described below. The entire content of the batch vial will be stored, inverted at which degree Celsius, for how many hours, and tested according to the specifications and procedures described for finished product testing. The results of such testing will be provided to the FDA in an annual report. Again, FDA may ask you to give them a report sooner, I would say, but not later than 1 year. And here again, as you see, we are going to commit to do the following test about the appearance, again if applicable, to the radionucleidic nucleidic identity, radionucleidic purity assays, pH, any specific again activity as well. And you have the same list that we saw already in section 10. And then we also talk about in the CMC about the vial and outer packaging labels. We add that into the attachment. We also do the environment assessment. So again, in accordance with 21 CFR 2531B, and then we write down which name. The name of the sponsor claims a categorical exclusion from the environmental assessment requirements for approval of the drug that we are talking about. If not, we will have to do an environmental assessment because we don't want our product to find itself in an active format in the environment. This is why. And don't forget that many drugs, for example, we are asking pharmacies to put in place some type of recycling procedure in order for their patients or their clients, those who are taking the drugs, to bring back any drug that has not been used, for example. Everything is just for preventing harm to the environment. So it's a very important section in the CMC as well. Okay. And then, of course, again here, I'm not going to go over again this document as well, but this is just for, again, talking to you just about one substance. So I'm going to stop talking about this, I would say, this second CMC. And again, I hope that you again learned a lot about the content of a CMC. Again, I would like to emphasize on the fact that the CMC must be written in a template. This is the template that we saw together, we covered together, and this CMC template is given to us by FDA. You can always go to FDA website and search for the chemistry, manufacturing and controls section. In your IND package, pre-IND package, we will need to prepare also a PowerPoint presentation. So, in a nutshell, when we are preparing and again communication with FDA, we will also need to prepare a presentation that we are going to add into the meeting request package. Again, it can be an IND, it can be an NDA, it can be again, or pre-NDA, sorry, it can be a pre-BLA. So here I'm going to show you a pre-IND or a pre-investigational new drug application presentation, and this is related to a pre-IND meeting request. So we already of course covered the again guidance document from FDA. We know that for pre-IND meeting this is a meeting type B. We also know all of the components of the cover letter that we can of course cover or check again by looking into the guidance document from FDA. And the content of the PowerPoint presentation is as follows for a pre-IND meeting. So first we are going to add again an introduction, because this is the presentation that is going to be given to FDA officers as well. And then we are going to write down that this is a pre-IND meeting package. Don't forget that this is the template given to us by FDA. In order to get this template for a pre-IND presentation PowerPoint for the pre-IND meeting request package, you can go to again FDA website and you're going to use that specific template. Now pages are the following. We have to start with an introduction and about the product as well, and here we are talking about the pharmacology and the use of course of the product. We will then continue by talking about the pharmacology, about the product itself, and then talking about any clinical trial that has been done, or since we are talking about a pre-IND meeting, it may be the first clinical trial that we are looking into getting the approval for by FDA. So we are going to write down that we would like, for example, here doing a study and randomized double-blinded or double-masked parallel group trial to confirm the clinical efficacy and safety of a drug that or a biological product that we are looking at, and that's why we are applying for this pre-IND meeting. Then another I would say the next slide, which is in the FDA template, is asking us to write the rationale or the reason why we would like to again get the IND approval. Then the next slide in the FDA template is about previous animal studies. So if we have been doing or perform any study about the carcinogenesis, about mutagenesis, or any impairment of fertility, or of course about the reproduction analysis. Then the next slide for again in the template of the FDA is asking us to add information about the non-clinical development programs, and talking about the safety and any finding. So for this drug, for example, there is no issue. We didn't find anything in the non-clinical development program. However, you may have some issues as well. We simply and honestly, of course, write it down here as well. Don't forget that the reason why we are having a meeting with FDA is to make sure that we are on the right track, that scientifically, again, based on the discussions that we have with FDA, we are again talking about our product. We are showing us as an industry that we know about the benefit and risks again of the product, and this is why we add all of the information related to the again I would say the efficacy and the safety of the product. And this is why we have several specific pages or slides in the PowerPoint presentation template that FDA gave us on the website. Then we talk about the development plan, where we would like to go, what we would like to test, and don't forget that we have to explain this because we are going to apply for an IND approval, and we are going to have an IND number. So on the top of each of the protocols that we are going to use in order to test our product based on this IND, based on the rationale, and of course the development plan, we will need to add information in this slide as well. Then we are going to give information about where this product is going to be tested. So here this is again in 4 clinical sites in North America. We also talk about the fact that the trial is a multi-center randomized parallel group double-blind or double-masked clinical efficacy and safety trial evaluating what exactly. We talk about the number of patients or subjects, and we talk about the duration of the study as well. And then we are going to talk about the study arms or different groups that are going to be exposed to a drug. It may be again a single fixed dose, it can be another, I would say, as a placebo, it can be a single fixed dose here which is again using the drug. It may be again any study arm, like you're going to expose our patients or study subjects to different doses of the drug as well. This is what we write in the study arms section. Then we talk about what is going to be tested over time. So we talk about the testing phases and of course variable to be tested. You can use not one variable but several variables. So this is where we are going to give information about the study protocol for which we are applying for an IND. Then we can talk about the key inclusion and exclusion criteria. This is where we are going to justify, of course present, justify, and discuss with FDA officers about the subjects that are going to be included in the study or excluded from the study. Then another slide in the FDA template for the presentation is about the primary endpoint. You may have a secondary endpoint and different analyses that you are going to perform. We're also going to talk about, again, different sensitivity analysis. We are also going to talk about different hazards, and we are going also to give a very simple but very consistent, I would say, explanation about the statistical analysis that we are going to use, including the confidence interval, which is here at 95%. And then we talk about the secondary endpoints and the analysis. And again, we are talking about types of analysis that we are going to perform. Then in another section, we are going to talk about the chemistry, manufacturing, and control. So we give a description of investigational drug substance. And don't forget that we also put the CMC into the, meeting request package as well. Now we also give in another slide from the FDA template the description of the investigational drug product, and this is of course coming from the investigator's brochure that we already prepared. In the next slide, we are going to add information about the method of manufacture and final packaging of the investigational drug product. That's because we have to make sure that if this is double blinded or a double masked study, neither the experimentator nor the subjects should be aware of the drug as well. Of course, you have clinical trials where this is not masked or blinded. We also have simple blinded or simple masked studies where only patients, they don't know what they are taking. This is because we like to remove the bias from the analysis. And of course here we are going to write down again different methods for the final packaging, writing down of course, for example, creating the implant body for this drug, or forming drug pellets, again for this drug only, or hot melt extrusion, again for this drug. You may have other methods of manufacturing and packaging, and don't forget even labeling as well of the drug. So here of course we talk about forming the caps, implant assembly, cutting the body, for example. This is again related to this specific drug that I'm showing to you here, but for your own drug or your again biological or your product or biological product as well, you will need obviously to add a different information. And of course at the end again we continue by talking about okay, how we are going to administer the product. So here of course for this drug again we are talking about drug insertion into the body and the sealing the body as well. So again, this is just for the sake of this example, but what we understood from this presentation is that FDA is giving us the pre-IND meeting presentation template, and we need to prepare a pre-IND meeting package, and in this case we will need to again refer to the guidance document as of September 2023 of FDA on the preparation of meeting requests from FDA. And again in this case that we are talking about a pre-IND meeting package, which is meeting type B as per the FDA guidance document. So again, I would like to just put emphasis on the fact that you need always to go to FDA website, making sure that you are again accessing the latest guidance document, the latest templates as well. When you are using the CMC or chemistry manufacturing and control document, you will need to use the FDA template for that. When you're completing the cover letter, you will need to use the FDA template for here a pre-IND meeting package as well. So always make sure that you refer to the FDA website. You're going to use the latest approved documents, and you're using, if whenever applicable, again any template that has been again asked by FDA for us to complete. And when you are dealing with templates, do not remove any section, do not add any section, because it's already again we are already using a template, and this is the way that FDA officers and reviewers are going to of course review your application. So thank you so much for your attention, and I hope that you enjoyed of course this presentation. Thank you.